First of all, the Deputy Minister of Planning, Coordination of the Ministry of Public Education, Otto Granados Oldan. And the Director of the Division of Support and Coordination for the 2030 UNESCO Education Agenda, Mr. Jordan Naidu. The Secretariat of the Teacher Task Force, Secretariat, Edem Adubra. I'd also like to introduce the General Director of International Relations of the Secretariat for Education, Public General Secretary of the Mexico UNESCO Cooperation Secretariat, Benito Lopez. I'd also like to introduce Madam Winston Gordon, who is a member of the Steering Committee of the UNESCO International Teachers Task Force and is an authority on education from Jamaica. Welcome. I'd also like to introduce the co-president of the International Teachers Task Force, Bente Nilsson. And to round it off, I'd like to introduce Mark Ginsburg, who chaired the rapporteurs team for this policy dialogue forum. I will, and Mr. Naidu will be moderating this closing session.
Afternoon, everyone. We've reached the last session of our last few days of very intensive, interesting, and I think forward-looking sessions. And so we are looking forward for about 45 minutes of further insight into how we move forward. And before I begin, I want to again welcome Dr. Roldan, the Vice Minister of Planning, Evaluation and Coordination in Mexico, and Mr. Benito Miron Lopez, the Director General of International Relations in the Ministry of Public Education of Mexico. We are really, I think, honored to have both of these honorable guests join us for this last session. Dr. Roldan will be giving us our closing speech, so we look forward to that, and I think it will be a good, interesting, and forward-looking wrap-up of our past few days. But before that, we have a few other important things to take care of. First, there are 3 or 4 things to look forward to. Before I hand over to Edem Adubra, the head of the Teacher Task Force, who will moderate a short session from Voices of Youth, we will also have the conclusions of the policy dialogue led by Winsome, who will outline the declaration and final statement, as well as some of the conclusions from the deliberations from the Chief Rapporteur, Mark Ginsburg. So before, since we have fairly tight timelines, I will call on Edem to first introduce and moderate the session on Voices for Youth. Edem, over to you.
Thank you, Jordan. Honorable Minister, colleagues, Mr. Benito, my colleagues of the Teacher Task Force, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our very hectic but very intensive and exciting discussions here in Mexico. I would like to thank the government and the people of Mexico for the hospitality and the facilities provided to us to have this discussion. We thought that we have been very inclusive. We talk about teacher stakeholders, we talk about policymakers, researchers, teacher union representatives. have asked 4 young people who in the groups who have been listening to you to give us their feedback on what we have been saying. If we claim that we have been inclusive, let's see what they think about ourselves. So I will call on Nidia Martinez Molot. I will ask all of you, you have the mic there, you stand here. There are 3 youth from Mexico and 1 from Haiti. They have been, and could you all come over here? When I give you the floor, you introduce yourself before I ask the question. All 4 of you, come over. You have been listening to the discussion of these international experts. You were shy enough not to speak in the sessions, I'm sure. And you have read and seen the conclusion and the report. I have 2 questions for you. Can you tell us what first question, what positive things have you heard which is in favor of supporting the teacher you want to have or you want to be? For this first question, take the mic. There is 1 from Chile. Okay, great. Okay. The more the better. So I will call on Nidia. What positive things you have heard which is in favor of supporting the teacher you want to have or you want to be? I asked you want to be because I know that some of them are training to become teachers. Nidia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, throughout this forum, I think we've realized that Mexico, along with many countries, has to face a number of challenges in its educational system and its teacher training system. Nonetheless, we know that the quality of schools depends a lot on quality of teachers and of future teachers. At this forum, we've seen arguments in favor of professionalizing teachers in line with the challenges that face societies, whether Mexican society or other societies. When it comes to curriculum, a number of discussions were on deploying strategies in favor of ongoing training, in-service training, when that works in line with student learning. We also know that progress depends on the conditions within which teachers do their work. And it's really important that appropriate conditions be created for teachers in the classroom to create communities of learning that support the ongoing professional development of teachers to work for more equitable education for all.
Thank you. Annie, traveled from Haiti, Port-au-Prince to come here, and for the 4 days that you have been here, you listen to things. Okay, what are the positive things you have heard about the teacher you want to have?
Ladies and gentlemen, and Task Force Steering Committee members, I come from Haiti. Let me just start by quoting Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon for changing the world, and education has become number 4 SDG, and this is the most powerful tool for sustainable development. And the teachers are the catalysts of this transformation. I'd like to congratulate the Teachers Task Force for focusing on inclusive education and involving young people in the TTF. It's really an honor for me to speak on behalf of young people. We're familiar with the classroom, of course, as young people, and the role that it must play to achieve the SDGs. As we are tomorrow's leaders, I followed the deliberations closely, and I appreciated the priorities that you set for this gathering.
Modern structure
we must see them as a community. That implies that we must make the transition from the formal educational model to a new one that recognizes students not only as individuals but also as members of community. Therefore, school must be built as places for personal development, critical and innovative thinking. Community build knowledge than despotic knowledge. The unilateral position not allows students to go further and explore other sources of knowledge. Ce qui m'a plus marqué dans les...
I think what most struck me in sessions was the question of the qualification of teachers and the question of government policy for teacher trainings. During your discussions, I saw you talk about your strengths, your weaknesses, and what you want to place a priority on for the coming years. I share your humanity, your desire to do the right thing and to make sure these things are implemented on the ground, because that's where things have to happen. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jimena and I study at the Escuela Superior de Educación Física here in Mexico. So I'm going to start by giving an answer to the first question. And I'm going to say that during the debate in the groups, we were talking about that teachers matter, and we really matter. So I'm going to be a teacher. I am a teacher to be, so I'm going to share this with you. To start with, I'm going to start again by saying that teachers matter. They are the most relevant factor in learning, which is also what the Mexican education reform is. So, secondly, an evaluation system helps measure effective teaching and learning in order to focus on a better professional practice. Here in Mexico, we have lots of filters that teachers have to go through in order to get a job or get a better position in a job.